There. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the LAFCo meeting of February 2nd, 2023. Please join me. Salute the flag of our nation. Ready? Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. All right. Okay, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bolin,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Here.
Chair Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Here.
Commissioner Sharman, Commissioner Betts,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Bradley,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Rust,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Ritter. Thank you.
Okay, so nobody's phoning in, right? I just want to make sure. All right. Okay, next up is our consent agenda. Is there any emails about our consent agenda? Public comment? Do we have a card? Do we have a card on the consent agenda?
No, we don't.
Anyone out there like to speak on the consent agenda? Okay, anybody up here like to pull the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent
I'll-
agenda.
I'll second.
Got that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we need a roll call vote, Mr. Chair, because we're doing a Zoom meeting?
You didn't, there's nobody on Zoom.
Okay.
Just to be safe.
Okay, roll call vote. All right.
Commissioner Bolin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Yes.
Chair Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley, Commissioner Betts.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up is their first notice public meeting. 3.1, it's petition. Centennial Avenue annexation number 1.
Thank you, commissioners. This is a request for annexation to the city of Chico that we received via petition by the landowner. The original application included 3 parcels located on the south side of Manzanita Avenue on the easterly edge of the city of Chico. In order to achieve a logical boundary, the staff is recommending that 2 additional parcels be added to the annexation territory. Those parcels are owned by PG&E and the County of Butte, and both of those entities have consented to the annexation. The parcels are zoned R1 10 or pre-zoned R1 10 by the City Chico land use diagram, which is low density residential with a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. The purpose of the annexation is to develop the parcels as they are within the Chico Canyon Island annexation area. The property owner has informed us that they would like to develop the parcels sooner than the 2026 timeline that is set out for the Chico Canyon Island annexation. So they've asked and have proceeded with an annexation application separately than that Chico Canyon area. And if this project is approved today, we would ask that when you consider the Chico Canyon Island, that you would remove these parcels from that map exhibit. The parcels do have a well and septic at this time, although city sewer is available to the site. No development is proposed at this time, but like I said, they could develop under the city's jurisdiction sooner than the 2026 timeline that would happen with the Chico Canyon Island. As with all annexations to the city of Chico, we're asking that it be removed from CSA 164, Butte County Animal Control, and it just happens to not be within the Butte Resource Conservation District, so that doesn't need to be changed, and it would remain in Mud Creek Drainage District. So if you have any questions.
Questions or comments for commissioners?
Okay, I'm just a little confused.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe I'm not the only one. These are just 2 parcels of what we plan to annex into the city in another year or two by 2026, correct?
So
And
the
these
next,
two parcels are being, or the owner of these two parcels are asking it to be annexed into the city prior to that annexation of several parcels.
yes,
Is
so
that correct?
it's within the Chico Canyon Island annexation. That is the next item on your agenda. It's a total of 5 parcels. And if it were to remain in that island that you'll consider on your next item and that item was approved, these 5 parcels would not be part of the city Chico until 2026. And if Chico Canyon Island is approved, no landowner within that island can pursue annexation separately or sooner than the 2026 timeline. So this particular property owner has expressed their desire to develop something on the parcels. There is no development plan in place right now, but taking them out and considering them separately would allow them to move on their own timeline rather than the 2026 timeline for Chico Canyon Island.
And does staff have a recommendation on this?
We are recommending that you do, it has 100% landowner consent and support from the County of Butte. And so we are recommending that you adopt the resolution to approve the annexation.
Ahead of the entire annexation.
What we're calling the Centennial annexation of 5 parcels. We are not adding any more. We're not considering Chico Canyon separately. This is its own application of 5 parcels to be annexed to the city Chico, considered separately from Chico Canyon.
And are you looking for action today, or is this, how long does the public hearing go on?
We will hold a normal public hearing as we always do, take public comment, and then there is a resolution to adopt. And if the resolution is adopted today, we'll go through a normal 30-day reconsideration period, as we always do, and then record the Centennial Avenue annexation, and they will be part of the city of Chico within the next 45 days or so.
Okay, thank you.
And just to verify, this is 100% landowner consent, so no protest hearings are required by state
Correct.
law.
You can
Okay.
waive protest proceedings.
Any other questions by commissioners? We have public comment. I received several emails,
Yeah, we have Leslie Depwig, the property owner.
like to speak.
Good morning, council. I'm Leslie Depwig. I live at 216 Centennial Avenue. I'm here to ask for your approval of our request to annex these properties separately and prior to the annexation of the Chico Canyon Road annexation, which is slated to happen in 2026. This, by allowing us to go into the city of Chico, it will allow us to benefit from the use of the city sewer, other services, and it will allow us to clarify the uses and zoning of the properties. And the zoning and uses have been very unclear in the past as we try to do things with the property. So this will really greatly help us guide us into our development of the properties. So we're asking for your approval. We'd much appreciate that.
So you're just kind of doing this to get a head start. You're not willing to wait 2 more years till get this all. That's
No,
basically your
based-
motivation to do
Yes.
this.
Yeah, we have sewer up on Chico Canyon Road on right by one of our properties, but since we're in the county at this time, we're not able to do a septic because it's too close to the sewer, so we can't build. I mean, it's been prohibiting as far as development of the property. It's been unclear as far as city or county setbacks. And so we just need clarification instead of waiting another 2-3 years. We've owned the property for almost a decade and are anxious to know what we can do.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this? I'll close public comment. Wishes of the board. might point out, this is 100% landowner approved, and we can't do anything but approve it by law. We'd be in violation of law. So I'm looking for a motion to that.
I'll move approval.
Second, the motion to approve as recommended by staff.
Okay, please
And-
call the roll.
And we can clarify that that is option one that we're looking at, the
Option one,
five as
right.
amended by the staff.
Commissioner Boland,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshue,
Aye.
Chair Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner McGrehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Betts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go forth and join the city. We'll see you. Okay, adoption. Okay, wait a minute. We gotta go back here. All right, this is one, 3.2. City of Chico, Chico Canyon Road annexation number 8. This is annexation of 112 parcels totaling approximately 177 acres.
All right, thank you, commissioners. So yes, like you said, this is a application that came to us from the city of Chico. It is the fourth and final island as part of the annexation agreement that we entered into with the city of Chico back in March of 2022. The area comprises of 112 parcels and 177 acres. It extends from Centennial Avenue at the south up to Falcons Point Drive, which is a private road. Areas south of Manzanita are zoned R110, which is low density residential with a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. Areas north of Manzanita are zoned RS1, rural suburban with a 1 acre minimum. And parcels on Falcons Point Drive have a foothill design standards overlay, which has additional building regulations if they were to build under the city zoning standards. City sewer is available only to portions of the site, and so it's mostly served by on-site septic systems. Cal Water serves only portions of the site, so most of the parcels have private wells. So as you just approved the Centennial Avenue annexation, we are asking that the map exhibit be modified to remove the 5 parcels from that project from this annexation. And then we're also asking that the proposal be modified to remove all parcels from CSA 164, Butte County Animal Control, and the Butte Resource Conservation District, as that's standard with all city annexations. So as you saw in your email yesterday, we did receive significant protest letters for this project, none since the email was sent to you yesterday. So I did want to just go over some common themes that we saw in those letters and maybe address some of the issues that some people had. So the first was that there would be additional taxes realized from being annexed into the city of Chico. The city does not have a parcel tax, and so no, the taxes would not increase from being in the city of Chico. It's just how the taxes are allocated between the city and the county would be different. If anything, because the parcels are being removed from CSA 164, there could be a reduction of $4 or so, whatever that parcel tax is, from being removed from CSA 164. The most common theme I saw is that people didn't want to be under the city's land use regulations, which would limit them from burning within city limits. Animal keeping standards are different for the R1 zoning district, although in the RS zoning district, what we call hooved animals are allowed in the RS zoning district, so that would not change. And then, of course, land use regulations like fencing and setbacks are different for the city of Chico. Another common theme is that people would not want to connect to the city sewer or to the water system. As I mentioned, city sewer is not available to most of the annexation territory. And even if it was, the city does not mandate connection to the city sewer system unless there's a failed septic tank and you are within 250 feet of city sewer. The city does not provide water to the area, as that service is provided by Cal Water, and they serve only portions of the territory. Again, no requirement to connect to Cal Water. These folks can stay on their septic and well for the life of their septic and well. Most people did not want any increased development within the area. As I mentioned, it's zoned for low density residential. There is no multifamily land use designation in the area. So they would have to meet the city's development standards of a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, which for the rest of the city, most minimum lot sizes are about 3,400 square feet, which is tiny. So it's significantly larger in these 10,000 minimum lot size areas. And then, of course, lots of people discuss that they are satisfied with the services that they receive in the area from Butte County Sheriff and CAL FIRE. Although we know that there is a City Chico Fire Station, station number 6, just right up the corner. They would be the first responder for fire incidents. And then, of course, Butte County Sheriff they're not regularly within city limits. And so if there was a crime where they called 911, then the sheriff would have to come in from wherever they might be located at the time. So the most efficient service to them will be City Chico Police and City Chico Fire. So I do want to remind you today that there is a limitation on whether or not you can disapprove this project. Government Code 56375 states that the commission shall not disapprove an annexation to a city initiated by a resolution of contiguous territory if it finds any of the following: that it's surrounded or substantially surrounded by the city, is substantially developed or developing, is not prime ag land, is designated for urban growth, and is not within the sphere of influence of another city. This particular area checks all of these boxes. And so, as Bill mentioned with the last project, you are limited in your ability to disapprove this project unless you could argue any of those issues.
But the public is still allowed to protest, correct?
Yes, so today,
Even if we
while you're
approve it, they
limited,
have a process to
you're limited
protest.
in disapproving the project, but you
Right.
cannot waive protest proceedings
Which
as
we-
the island is over 150 acres. So in this slide, I show you a rundown of what will happen next, basically, because we did receive, we only need to receive one protest letter in order to kick this into protest, and we received well over 50 of those letters. So what'll happen next is you'll be asked today to direct staff to initiate protest proceedings. And this is sort of a rundown of what could happen. So we'll set a protest date, and everyone within the affected territory will receive essentially a ballot in the mail. If we receive 50% or more of those ballots protesting of registered voters in the area, then we'll terminate the proceedings altogether, so that there's 207 registered voters in the area. So we need 104 protests. If at least 25%, but less than 50% of the registered voters in the territory, or 25% of the number of landowners owning at least 25% of the assessed land value protest, it'll go to an election held by the City of Chico. So they would send out a ballot, and only registered voters in the affected territory would vote. And that would be a yes vote as opposed to the protest. And then we'd order the annexation without an election if less than 25% of the registered voters and less than 25% of the landowners owning 25% of the land value protest. So it's a little convoluted. I know the numbers are kind of hard to wrap your head around, but as the protests come in, we sort of make a tally mark of what we've received. And it's basically just a math equation. And then we'll move forward with either of those three options. Either we terminate it, we hold an election, or we approve the annexation.
Okay, so clarify that if we hold the election and over 50% vote not to be annexed, it's over, right?
Correct. If 104 registered voters protest the annexation,
Right.
we terminate the proceedings and does not become part of the city.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for the public.
Shannon.
Even though that it's contrary to state law that says we have to annex these island areas of
Yes,
cities.
you have fulfilled your duty by not disapproving it.
Not the city, we're not the citizens, we're
Yes.
LAFCo.
Okay, but
There is a process to be held after you
okay,
fulfill.
even though
your
we
duty.
recommend it,
Sorry?
Even though we recommend it here today, which
Yes.
we're responsible for doing
Yes,
by state law, the citizens of that area, over 50% can say, we don't want it.
Yes.
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's
Yeah.
clear to everybody out here. So.
Can you explain how the protest proceeding actually works?
Yeah, good point.
As, you start with mailing a ballot out. So can you explain out just for the public and
Sure. So
commission?
we ask that today you direct staff to begin the protest proceedings. So we have 30 days to set a protest date within the next 90 days. So during that time, we will send out essentially every registered voter and landowner will receive a packet in the mail explaining in detail the protest hearing. And there'll be a ballot that says that they need to sign it, give their information on there, and they need to return it to us by a certain date. And there's a time cutoff and a date cutoff. And then essentially on that time and date, we'll take all those protests, count them up and fit them into this math equation. If it does trigger an election, we'll notify the city that their city council needs to request that an election happen. And I'm sure we'll come back here and notify you of those results. Okay.
So I guess the follow-up question is, so we go through this whole thing and the people do not want to be annexed. How many years is it before Chico can request it again?
There's a 2-year limit that no application can be received. Is it 2 years? Substantially similar application cannot be considered for 2 years. The city will have fulfilled their obligation to attempt annexation for this area. And I would be very surprised if they pursued
I
anything
understand.
further.
I just want to
Yes.
make sure that everybody understands what could
Yes.
happen. I believe they would never do it if it
Yeah.
was.
And I've got one more quick
Yeah.
question. So Ms. Debwig's property now is exempt from this annexation process.
We're asking that you today consider and approve a modified version of the exhibit
Right.
that we received from the city that plucks out those 5 parcels.
And that's the option one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But speaking of option one, based on the testimony you've shared with us this morning, you have, relative to the public hearing of this agenda item, you have protests,
I had an option
communications
A.
received, right? And
Mhm.
based on those receipts, you're indicating to us that we should also order a protest proceeding as part of our action on it,
Yes,
in addition to option one.
there's an
Well,
option in the resolution.
I think we'll
It's-
take them separately. I think we'll approve it
Sure.
as we should, and then we'll do the protest separately, so it's clear.
The resolution does include the option to direct staff to hold the protest hearing. I think it's option B. So it's B of option 1. And so today we're asking that you adopt the resolution amending the annexation exhibit, removing the centennial parcels, finding the project consistent with the City Chico General Plan EIR, and that no further environmental review is needed, and direct staff to set the proposal for a protest hearing, giving
Okay.
public notice of the hearing.
That's clear.
So that's all covered in resolution 06-2223.
Any other questions by commissioners? All right, I know we had electronic comments. We read those. Now we have cards.
I don't have any part.
You can come up and speak, sir. We'll give you 3 minutes enough. There you go. Could you turn, there you go. They turned it on for you.
Good.
Rick Manarino, I represent 89 and 99 Chico Canyon Road. And we've been there since 1971. So we've seen a lot of changes. This island, Chico Canyon Centennial, is actually a gem when it comes to properties where it's the proximity to the park. I'm sure you've read some of the letters. The big concern, well, first I'll start with the city of Chico saying not much changes, which I disagree completely. And the two positives that they presented for us going into the city was Chico Police, which to me, from my experience, we've been very happy with the sheriff. The distance between the city, the police headquarters and the sheriff is kind of a wash. The big deal though is we go into Chico, then the zoning, that there's a possibility of the zoning changing. And then you have this large scale, because there's some big lots. Infill, high density infill, which it changes everything. But again, the city was pitching the police and leaf pickup. And anybody that's been on our road, leaf pickup's a joke. All right. And so with the burning, we're not concerned about leaves. We have a lot of fiber. We have a lot of trees. We have a lot of oak trees, a lot of fruit trees, a lot of oleanders. And we have 3 acres and we can burn and then we can spread the ashes. It's not efficient. And if you're into this climate thing, it's not efficient for us to drive all the way out with a trailer constantly to the landfill and drop our fiber into the landfill. The hoofed animal policy is Chico has restrictions. We're losing landowner rights if we go into the city, or land use rights. And one of them is the hoofed animal. Everything's grandfathered in, but if you don't play the game of stacking your property with all the kind of animals you want, then you will, you're SOL. How much time?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
You're doing good.
All right, well, I could go on. We like recology. We do not like waste management. We plan on this being terminated on the first proxy. And thank you for your time.
Okay, very well put. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this matter? Good morning.
Michael Bechtel. I live at 378 Chico Canyon Road. I'm not part of the annexation. I live directly across the street from a large parcel that could be developed in the future, I suppose. So everybody has their own individual needs. So do I. The concern I have is I heard that you refer to 10,000 square feet. I believe that's a generalization because on your map, you show this as a middle section. And I think that's 1 acre, if I'm correct. I wanted to clarify that.
Well, sir, it doesn't matter. We have to approve the annexation as a commission. You have the right to protest it. And if you protest it and you're successful, you will not go in the city for at least 2 years.
I'm already on the city. I'm just adjacent to it.
And we're-
I'm already part
and-
of the
and-
whole city thing.
And I think if you have questions, you direct them to me and I'll ask staff when you're done, your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
My only comment would be that if it is the city in charge after this is done, there would be the entity that sets all of the permitting, et cetera, correct?
Sir,
That's
if
what I
you were
need to know.
annexed, if they were annexed, yes, sir. Fair enough. Do you have an answer to his question? On a generalization of the 10,000 feet?
As I show on this map, Manzanita bisects the territory. Everything south of that is R1, 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. Everything north of that is suburban, rural suburban, 1 acre minimum. Everything else is in the city limits already. So they're already under the city's development standards. Everything on the east side of Chico Canyon is zoned R1. That's just off the top of my head. And then everything south of Centennial is probably R1. So parcel specific, I couldn't tell you anything different. He's saying he's not in this annexation territory, so he's already under the city's land use regulations, and I'm not sure about his exact parcel.
My question is about what the potential use of the
Mhm.
property that I have a view of.
Sure.
And so I'm asking, is the mid section of that map 1 acre? I believe
Yes.
that's what it says in your documents.
Yes.
Right? That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then once it's under the city annexed, and when it's annexed into the city, can those 1 acres be divided further to provide more density, more housing? I think that's what Mr. Bechtel's
Yeah,
wondering.
so-
What will happen with those larger lots once it's annexed into the city?
They can develop at a minimum lot size of 1 acre. So if you have a 3-acre parcel, you can divide it into 3 1-acre parcels. The city cannot change the zoning designation for 2 years after the annexation is finalized. And so essentially, no zoning changes can happen until 2028. And that would go through the city's, public hearing process at the city council.
But they possibly could, after 2 years, make higher density in those
A
areas.
landowner could propose
Okay.
a zoning change and a general plan amendment to change the underlying zoning. Like I said, that would go through a city council process of which the public would be notified.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? You want to speak? Come on up.
Hi,
Morning.
my name's Steve Dennis, and I'm a landowner at 275 Chico Canyon Road. We purchased this property in March 2022 with the understanding that we'd be able to use it for livestock. With this annexation, we're concerned about the zoning rules in terms of setbacks from habitable places. And so we'd like to just put in a protest that I know you can't disapprove it now, but we're just concerned that we're going to have to shore up our area that we want to use for pasture. So we do have livestock. My wife and I are veterinarians, and we do own a veterinary hospital in Chico. And so this is part of our livelihood and part of our identity. And so limiting that space would be a financial hardship on us. And so that's why I'm presenting this letter of protest.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Please come up.
Morning. My name is Jeff Farrar. I preside at 45 Falcons Point Drive. On your map, we are at the very end of Chico Canyon Road. We are a private gated community. I'm not here to oppose the project or oppose the annexation. I just wanted to clarify, ask a couple questions. Would we be receiving the same city services because we're behind a gate as the other parcels in the event the area does get annexed? I'm talking about city services that they would provide. Obviously, I would assume fire and police, but road maintenance, things like that.
It depends how you're, do you have county roads now? Or do you
We
have
were
private
built to, we were
roads?
built to county standards.
Are
We're in
they
the, we're in the
county
county.
maintained?
It's privately maintained.
And it would still be maintained privately. That's a
Okay.
fair question.
Okay. The other question that was a little confusing regarding the 10,000 square foot, I just wanted to clarify that the existing zoning and general plan would remain in place in the event the annexation did take place, and that the annexation would not amend any existing zoning or general plan.
For a minimum of 2 years. And then the city could look at it again, or somebody could apply to change it. But yes, sir, for 2 years, it would remain the same.
And then it would be subject to the regular rezone process and
which
application
is
and neighborhood input and all of that.
Fairly complicated.
So right now, an area that is zoned 1 acre minimum would stay 1 acre minimum for at least another 2 years until somebody decided to try to, I guess, rezone, correct? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? I'm going to close public comment. And I'm going to mention to the public so that you're aware that the state of California is trying to preempt the ability of cities and counties to set minimum standards as to who can build on what. So that's a further complication that you need to be aware of. They're actually allowing many residential areas, you have to allow duplexes, you have to allow inside apartments, rural areas, you got to allow an extra dwelling, but that has nothing to do with us or the city or the county. I just want you to be aware that maybe you ought to write letters to them that you want to keep your rural lifestyle, because I think that's what you're going for here. All right, so there we go. We have to approve this as a matter of fact, and you put in an option that we will approve the protest at the same time.
It's in the resolution.
Option one.
Yes, option 1B would be directing staff to set the protest hearing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
1B.
1B. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bolin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Yes.
Chair Connolly.
Aye.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Betts.
Yes.
Thank you.
So for you that are concerned, you please fill out your papers and get them in and proceed with your protest. And I'd lobby the city council too. Just a suggestion. All right, we're gonna move on. I know where I'm at. I'm in Orville, right? All right, here we go. Regular agenda. Nothing removed from the consent. So we're gonna go to South. This is 23-10, 4.2, South Feather Water and Power, Milligan Lane Annexation number 1.
Okay, thank you, staff. This is staff, commissioners. This is a annexation proposed by the South Feather Water and Power Agency to annex a single parcel, 117 acres in size, to South Feather Water and Power to receive non-potable irrigation water to the site. You saw in the staff report that the site is undeveloped and the irrigation water would support future agricultural uses at the site. It is zoned AG 40 agriculture with a 40-acre minimum by the Butte County land use diagram. There's not much more to it. So staff is recommending that the commission adopt resolution 13/22/23, approving the proposed annexation, finding the project exempt from environmental review, and waiving protest proceedings as we do have 100% landowner consent.
Questions or comments by commission? Public comment on this matter? Anyone public like to speak? I'll say it totally makes sense. But do you? Come on up and ask. Good morning.
Downhill from the water run. And my letter says that they may annex the neighboring properties. So here's his property and then my neighbor's property and the water runs this way. And then it comes down into my property like this. And we all have different sized ponds and then it runs into the watershed. My question is, and it says, previously authorized taxes, assessments, charges, and fees. I want to know what those are. Because I can be annexed. Right now, you're saying 100% landowner, but I don't know what the fees are going to be. Do I need to fight it or I go, oh, okay, that's cool. I could pay an extra $50 a year, or is it going to be $5,000 a year? I don't have any idea.
I guess the question is, are you part of the annexation?
It says on the letter that I got, I can read it to you. That the commission has the authority to amend boundaries either to include additional parcels within proximity to the project site or to exclude properties if supported by reasonable substantial evidence. And then there's more legalese. And then it says previously authorized taxes, assessments, charges, and fees of the South Feather Water and Power Agency could be extended to the property subject to the proposed annexation. So they're saying I could be annexed.
Do you want to be annexed?
I don't know. That's why I don't know.
Well, you're not being annexed. That's the point.
Okay, so later on, if they go, we want to annex you, then,
Well, you'd have to agree with it
right, okay. So
unless
right
all
now,
your neighbors around you
just
agreed and you didn't. or
chill
something.
out and go sit down.
Well, no.
No.
No, that's how I suggest that you go to South Feather
Right.
and talk to them and see if it's worth you being annexed, if there's and what it costs you to be annexed.
Okay,
We're not going to annex you today because we're only annexing the people that have agreed to it
okay,
on the neighboring property.
all right.
So the confusion is that they're saying you could be in the future, but you should go ask that question to see if it might be worth it to you.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have water all year long.
It might be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You bet. Anyone else like to speak on this? I'm gonna close public comment.
This property owner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This property owner asked for this.
Yes.
They want this.
Yes,
That's the difference.
right.
They actually pursued it. Okay.
That's a legitimate concern.
Yes,
Oh, of
it is.
course,
I
of
want to
course.
make sure I understood and it goes out
Okay,
there.
any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve this item as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bolin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Yes.
Chair Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Betts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is 4.3. This is a formation of the Tuscan Water District time extension. What's before us today is the time extension. I want to make that clear. Okay, staff.
Yes, Mr. Connolly, you're exactly right. This is a time extension. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act requires that if we do not record a certificate of completion within 1 year of the approval date, we need to ask for an extension in order to allow that process to continue. And that's what you're in front of you today is simply a simple question, yes or no. Do you want to provide a 1 year extension to allow us to continue the process, this formation of the district? This is not about the formation. This is not about the prior hearings. This is simply very focused on simply a time extension to allow us to continue to process this application. The reason we need to continue this for additional time is that there were some errors made during the election process, which we will talk about at a later date. But that stopped the election. So now we have to go about the effort of trying to repair that process and allow that to move forward, which will take us beyond the 1 year. That's why I'm respectfully requesting you to extend it for a 1 year period.
Electronic comment, Insider?
We have one comment from Jeffrey.
Anyone here like to speak on this item?
Yes.
Well, come on up, Mr. Harriman.
Honorable members of the commission. I'm here today as a resident of the city of Chico and of the resident of the city of Chico and taxpayer in Butte County. I'm here to just ask some procedural questions that I learned as I just put them down as bullet points that are easier for you to review. I'll go over them very quickly. They're primarily procedural. And these will basically be directed to Steve and I guess Marcia. I noted in the agenda item and the documents there was no written request from the applicant that was referenced in the staff report or provided to your commission, which would state the reasons other than those provided by Mr. Lucas. Secondly, LAFCo is not the applicant. And so if the staff initiated this request, did it have a resolution or approval from this commission? And then the third is that there's no reference in the staff report or elsewhere on the agenda to a payment of the fee for the request to get an extension or evidence of payment. And attached to my documents here, I've indicated, I've copied the request for commission review, requires a 1 year time, $500 payment. I haven't seen any evidence that that payment has been submitted with the request from the applicant. So then if there is not an applicant that submitted the written request, why is LAFCo initiating this request on behalf of applicant? And then the final question is, if there is no written request from the applicant stating its reasons for why it wants the extension, then it's unclear to me how it would be procedurally correct for staff to initiate this request for the commission. Final point, because I think this is the one you're going to want to ask. Okay, you've made these procedural objections. I think there may be also a problem with the proper notice to the landowners of this request who are going to be impacted. And we in Chico believe that we will be impacted by this, which is why I'm here speaking today. And I was underwhelmed with the lack of the sufficient findings to support the resolution from the applicant's point of view, what the issue is. Final point, they're already doing what they can do as Commissioner Kimmelshoe knows, because he sits on Vina GSA. They're already applied for project approval. That's the whole purpose of TWD.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll turn to our council on this.
Yeah, go ahead and.
I'll go ahead and start the process and Ms. Birch can and opine if she prefers. So as far as the fee, this is a part of an ongoing application that has already been submitted for which we have a current billing process. So there is no requirement for the additional fee to be submitted as a $500. This is a real-time billing application. Until we file the certificate of completion, we continue to bill the applicant for all of our costs, which would include the costs of this particular action in front of us. So that answers that question. The question of who is the applicant, it is irrelevant in terms of who requests the time extension. This is an application that is proceeding through a process that involved both a protest proceeding and ultimately an election. So therefore, we are intricately involved in that process. And as your staff, I am asking you to extend it 1 year. I do not required by code to have it from the applicant. It could come from the applicant, but traditionally it would come from an applicant if the applicant was unable to fulfill the conditions that were applied to them. In other words, you ask somebody to build a road and they don't get it done within the time period. They could come back and ask us to extend that to meet that condition. In this case, this is an election process that's being run by the government, by our elections officials in this county. And your staff has a role to play in that to get it to that point. So we are requesting the extension for that purpose alone. There's no requirement whatsoever for the applicant to have made that request. I think that's the two fundamental issues at play, and both of them I do not believe are relevant. And if Ms. Birch would like to add to that, she's welcome to.
No, I think.
Turn your mic on.
I think the point that Steve makes about, a request for extension from an applicant where the applicant was unable to fulfill a condition and is then seeking additional time. There is a process for that. This isn't, as Steve mentions, it's an ongoing process that LAFCo staff is still actively involved in. And this delay was the result of issues at the elections office. And as far as, the final item, as far as notice is concerned, this is an extension of time for something that's already been approved. There's been proper notice throughout this process. This is a fairly straightforward question, as Steve mentioned. It's just a question of yes or no, whether or not to extend for a year in order to allow that election process to be completed.
Mr. Chair, can I ask legal counsel a question? So we're cutting this close. Is this the 365th day since the approval of the formation of the district?
64th.
Are you sure? It was on February 3rd, 2022. Today is February 2nd. This is the
Computer program that does it for you.
This is the last day. So coincidentally, it's on the agenda today, but that's fine. But I just want assurance from legal counsel that we can act on this.
If I could add, and she may say this, sorry, Marcia, is that this is a time frame that in the code is discretionary. It's not mandatory. There's a difference. There's only 4 items in the entire Cortese-Knox Hertzberg Act that are absolutely mandatory by code. The rest are guidance, essentially.
So you're saying this is discretionary?
To the extent that the code describes the two things as one being mandatory and one being not mandatory, yes.
Okay.
We're still doing it either way, and we will
Correct.
be in by the timeline. So it's a moot question, but
Just thought I'd ask. I just want to make sure I understand that. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this matter publicly? The comment, wishes of the board.
I move approval of the extension.
Second.
I've got to train you guys. Call a roll, please.
No, there was.
oh. Mr. Chairman, if I might, there was another lady who, did you want to
Oh.
speak?
No, I think.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. We're good.
Commissioner Bolin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe.
Yes.
Chair Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Betts.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is adoption of 2023 LAFCO regular meeting calendar corrected. Any public comment on our calendar? We'll close public comment. Any changes wished by the commission? I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bolin, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe.
Yes.
Chair Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Betts.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is 4.5, appointment of budget committee for 2023-24 fiscal year. How many do we need? 3? Okay, I'll do it.
I'm
And
willing to do it.
we need 4,
Yeah.
and it's going to be 1 from each category.
I'd like to do it.
Okay, McGreehan, me.
I've done it in the
So-
past, but if there's a.
Special district,
You
And
know
I-
what? I'll let you do it.
we need a,
You sure?
And I could-
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the chair.
No, I've done it for years.
The meetings last 15 minutes.
Well.
Not always.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll do.
Okay, so
And I'm more than happy to do it for public.
we got public, special district, county. Which one's for the city here? Got it? You got the 4 names?
Thank you.
Somebody want to make that a motion?
it's not required.
Okay, we're good. All right. Public comment on items not on the agenda. You can talk about anything you'd like. We just can't take action because it's not agendized. You can have another bite at the apple if you want to yell at us or something. Well, turn your mic on.
In Steve's executive officer's report, which is usually voluminous and excellent, as you all know, I use it as my Bible for what goes on in Butte County. I've asked before to have a report come into this body on the funding for the interchange at Southgate and Entler that's being funded largely, we think, with federal funds coming from the Congress. And I wanted to have this put on the agenda on a regular basis because it's very important in terms of understanding the growth and development that may happen in South Chico and the area in the county to the east of 99 and then to the west of 99, both in the county and in the city of Chico. I think Commissioner Kimmelshoe will understand and probably know a lot more about that than I do. But the bottom line is that from the public's point of view, we really need to know what the status is on that. And frankly, Mr. Chairman, you are the guy that knows everything on this, so I would really request it through you. Thank you
think
very
it'd
much.
Be more relevant to ask that at BCAG.
I was about to say the same thing.
Because
Have you made
that's
that
where your
request to BCAG?
transportation issues and monies are spent and looked at and how it enhances or inhibits growth. LAFCO doesn't have anything to do with roads.
Okay, I'll take that suggestion.
I think
is
it's very
definitely-
much more relevant
Yeah.
there. And we can't take action on your request today anyway, so you know.
Understood.
Request
Because
is
a
re-
lawyer would get me.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. That really helps me a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good suggestion.
Okay, executive officer, any public speak, please come on out. I thought you just liked to come see us.
I do.
Yeah.
Good morning, Chair Connolly and Commission. My name is Shannon McGovern. I'm with California Water Service, serving Oroville and the many other communities in California. We just wanted to come and introduce ourselves. I'm here with our Director of Operations for Oroville District, Lonnie Lind. She oversees all operations in Oroville. We are a part of the LAFCo's municipal services review for all the water providers. We just wanted to come and introduce ourselves and extend our appreciation to staff for their gracious efforts at meeting with us and ensuring that Oroville operations from Cal Water are accurately reported in the MSR. And we stand ready and available with an open door. If any of you should ever have any questions or require any information, we're at your service.
Glad to meet you.
Nice
Welcome.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? We've closed public comment. Now, next up is the executive officer's report.
Me again. I'll run through this pretty quick.
So I've already heard it's going to be really long and very good.
No, it's written long. I will speak very briefly. The alternate city commissioner Reynolds was obviously not reelected, and so we are asking the city selection committee to replace that person, and they will be meeting on February 6th to do so. And we'll be told after that who that person is, just giving you as an update. Commissioner Sharman's term is ending on May 31st of this year. For those of you who've been around here a while, you know how long it takes for us to get a quorum of votes from special districts. I'm going to put Al on point for this one. But we actually already started the process in advance of sending out requests for nominations, and we will run the process. Usually it takes us 2 or 3 cycles to get enough votes, but nonetheless, we're on it. And Mr. Sharman is certainly able to reapply through a nomination from any district. So it's not like he's forever gone. It'll just be his term is up and he can reapply as well.
Steve, I got a question. Is that in the bylaws that as far as LAFCo, that's how the special district person has to be? Couldn't we just take nominations and then have this board approve that person?
Wouldn't
Like
that
we
be
do,
lovely?
like we do the non-member person.
The short answer is no,
Okay,
unless you get elevated to the assembly and you write a bill.
well, that's not going to happen. So we'll just go, we'll just stay with what we got. Thanks. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think
that
that's,
might have been-
I think that's demoted. Yes. Yeah.
Demoted? Is that better?
Yeah.
So anyhow, we'll continue to update you on that process as we go through it. Third point talks about our agreement with the county. I think, and there's a letter included in your packet that came from the administrative officer of the county, and we are working through this process with them. Mr. Connolly has been helpful enough to sit down and talk with us about it. We're hoping that by the time the budget committee rolls around, we will have some idea from the county staff as to what the numbers will look like after their investigation with Workday. Just to be clear, we have nothing to do with the selection or use of that particular platform for the county. It's just that we have a contractual agreement with the county to manage our human resources and our payroll and so forth. And so our agreement is really separate from that, but that's the elephant in the room that's causing the headache in terms of cost. So right now, I just want to bring you up to date where we are. This is important, very important, but the next phase will be us going to the budget committee with some numbers for the updated budget. And we'll deal with it at that level. And then we'll come back to the commission unless there's any questions of me, but it's we're working the problem, as they say. And I will continue to have the chairman of LAFCo participate with me as well in that. Our audit is underway as we speak. We should have something back to you for review and acceptance in March. I have no reason to believe there'll be anything difficult with that, other than the auditor is experiencing some additional difficulties dealing with Workday as well, because it's a brand new system. Switching down to general notes, these are real quick, and some of you are intimately familiar with this. First one up here is county libraries. We have had some discussions with county staff at the administrative level, talking about different options to look at libraries. I know Supervisor Kimmelshoe is very interested in this issue as well. There's really nothing more for me to tell you other than we're working with them. We have provided some information, and my understanding is perhaps the Board of Supervisors will be seeing this in the near future to consider different options in terms of budgetary restrictions and so forth. But our role, if there is one to play, will be looking at the formation potentially of a countywide library district or some measure that would be similar to that. And if that doesn't come out of the Board of Supervisors, then we will have no role in this issue whatsoever. The new proposed cemetery district formation. This is another one that has been brought to us by county staff to talk about the proposed formation of a Durham cemetery. Again, Supervisor Kimmelshoe has been actively involved in this. He's been a busy beaver out there. And literally with some trees in the creek and everything, right? Nonetheless, we are working with them and see if there's an approach that we can take to form some sort of a cemetery entity, maybe not for Durham explicitly anymore, but that conversation I think is still unfolding. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Mr. Kimmelshoe.
Yeah, I think it's an issue that's widespread actually throughout the whole county. And I think there's a lot of cemeteries out there that are run by community organizations and with more and more regulations as to how burials are being done and those type of items. It would be interesting to see if we could put together some kind of county, possibly cemetery organization that would run those things. I don't know if my colleague here is in favor of that, but the county already does do Thompson Flat Cemetery District, and we are, the county supervisors are the governing board for that, would you say? And I'm not sure that if we could add
I'm
to
not
that.
sure. I think they might be in Teeter's district, but I've never had a protest or a complaint.
They're pretty quiet people.
Yeah, they're very
Okay,
quiet.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's an issue that we've talked about in the Durham community and also include the Dayton Cemetery. It's interesting. There's probably 4 or 5 other cemeteries.
There's
Bangor, there's
Onset,
Cherokee, there's all kinds of
Yeah.
cemeteries.
all over.
Anyway, just something that I'm sure it'll be a long process for us to figure this out. And I appreciate the staff's help on this. Thank you.
I will point out, because I would feel neglectful if I did not, but when I talked about the county contractual agreement that we have that I spoke of prior, this is the very kind of thing why we are so unique and our relationship with the county is so integrated. This very type of decision-making, fact-finding, where LAFCo as a body really in your staff functions a lot like a county department. And that's why we have that agreement with the county to begin with. So that just wanted to make the point is this is one of those areas where our unique relationship with the county is truly that. There's no other relationship like it for the county in terms of another local agency. Having moved forward to the Paradise Sewer Project, it is progressing forward. The town will be hearing this next week. And then the week after, the city of Chico will also, I'm sorry, Shannon's shaking her head at me. She's been following this. So I'm going to let her intervene 2 weeks out. I'm sorry. Nonetheless, both the town council and the Chico City Council will be hearing these items and approving them, and then ultimately submitting an application to LAFCo. So I won't go any further than that right now because we're just waiting for the outcome. Your staff will participate and attend those meetings, and we will report back to you with the outcome. And most likely we will see an application within the next couple of months to request the service extension, and that's a whole process into itself with public input and public hearings and so forth. So City of Biggs annexation plan, I want to give the city again credit. They put forth a really great 3-phase annexation plan a few years back. We had suggested that they do so as a way to forecast what they were going to do, and they have done so, and they have done it very well. And we have our first phase application has been submitted from them for that annexation plan. And this will be the piece that roughly goes from Highway 99 to the city limits on the west side of Highway 99. So we're going to continue to work with the city staff on that. And it's been a very positive interaction to date. Valley's Edge, I'm not going to get into talk about the project. You probably have all heard or seen or know something about Valley's Edge by now. Obviously, there's a referendum going on amongst the citizens to overturn that decision. It is approved by the city at this point, and at some point they will make an application to LAFCo for annexation. That has not yet occurred. And when it is, then we will also hold public hearings on the annexation of that property. Grizzly Biggs area of concern. There's nothing new to really report on that. I know discussions continue again. Supervisor Kimmelshoe has been a lot going on in South County, Mr. Kimmelshoe. But it's a really good, that project just continues to excite me. I think that both was Mayor Johnson and was Mayor Shepherd at the time when we started, but they have both been intricately involved over the time. And I would say, and if they want to add anything to it, but I think so far the discussions have been great and we're moving in a positive direction on that. I'll pause if you guys want to, if there's anything you want to add to that. If not, that's fine. Okay.
It is going well.
Other than that, I'm going to skip over the rest of the projects only because, as you can see, there's nothing I've added new to any of those. That's just continued on from last time, unless there's questions about any of those individual items I can try to answer. I want to answer one question, though, that I did not put in here, but I found out after I wrote the report. And it was related to your question, Commissioner McGreen, from last time, which was, what's the progress of Tuscan Ridge? since I wrote this, I do now got a response back from the county staff. Right now, they are preparing the administrative EIR, environmental impact report. So that's an internal preparation of the environmental document. That's not out for public release yet. It's internally being constructed. We may have a role in that when they come to us to ask for any particular review. So that's the latest update that I got from them, is that's where the project is. It's not incomplete any longer, but it's in the environmental review phase.
Did they give you evidence when they actually deemed the application complete? Because my question 2 months back was, I couldn't understand why they started the EIR process and they hadn't deemed the project complete.
That's a great question. I didn't get that thorough of an answer back. I
was contacted by them and I suggested that they meet with the county staff, Public Works, Development Services, and Environmental Health. And because they have a new project manager and because Mo West has passed away, there's been a big change. So they need to come reset so they understand the process. That's all I know. I don't know any details at all. I just suggest they come sit down, staff, reorganize and understand where we're going, because there was some confusion.
Thank you.
And that was a couple days ago. Okay.
I do check their Track It website, and it's not terribly easy to understand what's been done and how it's been done. It's just there's just a mix of information up there, and I don't have a real clear read on it either, to be honest with you.
Relate to that, believe me, because there's people up on the ridge that are in a ponder, wondering what's gone on or not going on, and it's just anyway.
That part I can't answer. I just suggested they sit down and
It's a good suggestion.
reset.
And if you'd be so kind, Mr. Connolly, as to, if you talk to the county staff, to ask them to include LAFCo in the process of any
Sure.
of those meetings, because we will obviously have a role to play down the road. Moving forward, I don't have anything specific about Cal LAFCo to talk about, other than the new chairman of the board for Cal LAFCO is doing an outstanding job, I hear.
Meetings are shorter.
How long's your term?
They'll probably run me off in 6 months where it's going.
Hopefully it's several years.
I don't.
He takes no joy in telling the people from Southern California to sit down and be quiet.
I have never directly done
that. Switching over to legislation, real quick. I, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Connolly have all been actively involved in this, but this deals with indemnification. I don't want to get into the details about it, but there was essentially a court case that said that we don't have the power to request indemnification, a mandatory indemnification. We do it locally here as a voluntary agreement, but what we really need is a change in state law that explicitly gives LAFCO the ability to request an indemnification from an applicant. As of yesterday, I can tell you that we're moving forward. There's progress being made, some language tweaks, but there seems to be, we don't have any outright opposition to it. It's a really kind of a standardized thing for all cities and counties and special districts in different codes, but for whatever reason, it never existed in the LAFCO law. I think there was a presumption that it existed, that we had that authority, but obviously this court case indicated otherwise. But I think we have a resolution and we're moving that bill as fast as we can. It actually got submitted to Ledge Council yesterday. The other piece of legislation deals with changes of organization and clarifications to 56133. And again, Mr. Connolly's been actively involved in this as well. That essentially there's some disagreement at times over whether or not any particular agency subject to that law can self-exempt. It just basically says that if you do certain things, they're exempt from this particular code that requires LAFCO approval. Our position has always been the code starts out with requiring LAFCO approval, and it makes logical sense that any exemptions to that section would be exemptions that LAFCO authorized as exemptions. But really the way it is now, we have some people out on the fringe, if you will, of various districts who will say that, no, we can exempt ourselves from this, and it's up to you then to police it. And if you don't like it, you can sue us essentially. We want clarification of this, and it's been a struggle. I don't know, we'll get solution to it at the very end, to be honest with you, because folks who think that they have found a loophole in something, they hang on to those loopholes as long as they can, and they use them as broadly as they can. This is really unfolding in a really public way in San Diego County, where they've had some direct conflicts already, and the LAFCo commissioned in San Diego has actually brought forth a policy that explicitly states that all exemptions are to be approved by their commission. I've actually considered bringing something that to our commission as well. And when I do, we'll have a bigger discussion about it. But anyhow, that's where we are with that piece of legislation. Is there any other questions of me on those items?
I have one question. El Mateo Fire District, has that been completed?
El Mateo Fire District is it's completed in terms of all of the processes we need to do publicly. We have not yet filed their certificate of completion for a couple of administrative reasons for them to clean up some things they need to resolve. We expect that should happen by early February. And then by mid-February, we should be clear to go ahead and file the certificate of completion, and that will officially terminate the district.
Good. I didn't know where in the process there were any hiccups or anything with that.
Thank you for the question.
Steve, back to your point about district self-exempting. In your experience, is it predominantly a certain type of special district that usually self-exempts more than the others?
You know, I don't know. Here's the thing: is part of it is that we don't even know what we don't know. So there could be lots of agencies out there who have done this, not told their LAFCos, and we would have no clue that this was even a thing until either we caught it in an MSR or we got it through some sort of an annexation update. But if they just self-exempted and extended water service, say, to somebody, and we were never told, there's no way we could know. But to give you a better answer would be that right now, the area where it has really mostly come to bear is water districts, moving water, and resource conservation districts who generally get contractual arrangements with other entities to do work. We're fortunate here in this county that our RCD is countywide, although the cities are hollowed out of it. You might remember a few years back, I brought some things forward where we authorized an exemption actually for Butte County RCD to both serve work in Upper Park and Chico and do some work on the Upper Ridge with PID and PRPD. So we've had a really good relationship. Our RCD quickly asks. We usually offer our permission really quickly. It's not an issue. But in San Diego County, some RCDs have gone out of their district boundaries to serve contractually some other entity, but it happens to be inside of another RCD boundary, which creates a huge conflict, obviously. So that's a really good example, because what we're saying to the legislature is, if you don't let somebody, one agency, be the gatekeeper for those exemptions, the whole process starts to unravel. Everybody can just do what the hell they want, pardon my language. And in which case there's no integration. And that's what's so important with LAFCo. We have to integrate general plans, plans of the local park districts, sewer districts, water districts, along with our policies and procedures. And when we get involved, that means everybody is actively involved and engaged, and the decision is very public. The way it works now with some of these agencies, they just internally choose to exempt themselves, and then no one's the wiser until we figure something out that's wrong.
But it's basically because their counsel interprets the law in such a way that he guides them to do that, or she guides them to do that. And so what we've tried to say to every other LAFCo in California, this eventually will happen to you, because this isn't in a vacuum if they find out that you can get away with this. The other thing we need is the buy-in of the Special District Association. Yes. It really allows them to have logical growth, and we really need them not to fight or argue back, along with the League of Cities. I mean, it's if you think about it, eventually it will bite you when your special district gets intruded upon by another special district because they decided that there's wiggle room in the language, and it's a pretty simple fix. Right. But again, we need special district buy-in. I'm requesting that of you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Conley, because just to expand on that just briefly is it so. What I have learned, and what I've learned from my colleagues around the state, is that those special district members that serve on LAFCOs and the 36 LAFCOs that have special districts, they fully understand what LAFCO does. Those special district members sitting on LAFCO would probably to a person almost say that this makes total sense because we understand the integration that's necessary to do this. However, CSDA, Special Districts Association statewide, they represent all 4,000 plus special districts. And guess what they also represent? The worst possible offending special districts. So what they do, like, I won't get political about this, but what they're doing is they're trying to protect membership interests. Unfortunately, what I don't believe is I don't think that's a wide all majority membership interest. I think it's Mr. McGrean might, because I've had conversation with him, he'd probably argue that this is a very important thing and we should fix it. But yet he's a member of CSDA whose staff is arguing against Cal LAFCo in this process. What I suggested is that all the LAFCOs who participate have special districts. We ought to have our special district members write a letter to CSDA collectively that say, you don't represent all of us, that there is another approach to this and there's another view. But we need active. And so if I would be asked enough to ask you, Mr. McGrean, if I could work with you to help go through this, figure out a way to do it. And I'm sure
Please do.
Yeah,
That was my
Be
request.
happy to.
Yes.
All right.
Right. I mean, it's really,
Yeah,
we've even had, just so you know, internally at State LAFCO, we had people say, we don't need to do this because we don't have a problem. But my argument is eventually you will. You just can't leave it in a vacuum. It's very important and
absolutely.
something we want to accomplish in the next year if we can. Anything else on executive?
All I have.
Any
Questions?
thing good for the order? Anybody?
I was Shannon for her great explanation of these annexations, which can be very complicated. As I've told you, I still don't quite understand how they all get done, but today was very difficult because we had one parcel that wanted to come in, or a couple parcels wanted to come in before the whole group. And so Shannon, I thought you did a great job of explaining that. And I appreciate that. And I think most of the questions got answered.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Conley, if I might, and you and I talked about this briefly yesterday, but I wanted to bring it up to the commission. It's not on the agenda, so this is just an offering. The way we conduct meetings is going to fundamentally have to change after February 28th, when the COVID pandemic emergency expires, which means AB 361, which was the law that gave us the ability to do all the streaming and sort of relax the Brown Act, if you will. That all goes away. It's replaced with another bill called 2449, much more complicated. I don't want to get into it today, but really the juxtaposition between where we are today and where we will be next month is next month we will be fully in-person meetings. We will no longer be using AB 361 as a justification to continue to Zoom. However, your staff will voluntarily continue to Zoom out all of our meetings because we think that's a valuable resource. It just won't be a two-way interaction on the Zoom call. It also further complicates what the commissioners themselves can do. Prior to today and forward, you could have Zoomed in as well. That you can still do, but now it comes with a host of restrictions that require you to justify why you're not at the meeting. That the rest of the commission has to essentially approve. I'm sorry this came up at the late minute, but
Let's just do away with it and go back to regular meetings, because posting a meeting, us approving it and doing all that seems ridiculous.
So I know I'm preparing you for is I will put this on the agenda for March in case you have any changes of heart or thoughts about it. But I also wanted to inform you that at your March meeting, there will not be a commissioner Zoom in option available any longer. Unless you take certain provisions that I will talk more about in March. But as of today, as of this meeting, this will be the last meeting that runs under this particular structure.
Well, in Gridley, what we've been doing for maybe less. If a council member was zooming in, they had no capability of voting.
Right, right.
Well, it's 2449 has changed that dynamic and came up with some very specific restrictions on how all this goes. I don't want to hit you all this late. I just wanted to let you know that coming up in March, we will be running under a slightly different protocol unless we do some additional changes, which you're all going to have to discuss, and I will provide a report on.
Which this commission has the interesting situation of where we can have alternates. City councils, boards of supervisors do not have alternates. So all the more reason to have active alternates. Like Mr. Bradley here, I see Tammy Ritter's zooming in also, but to have those alternates in person is important.
Very good
Or
point.
the general members need to communicate with their alternates if they're not going to be here.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point, Commissioner.
Anything else?
That's all I have, sir.
You done? Everybody else done? Class dismissed. We'll see you next month, March 2nd.